Good morning, everybody. I'm Micheline from Americana Long Arm Quilting. We do custom quilting and long arming, and you can find a link to our website in the description below. I am so excited for today. I love it when I have a day that my job is quilting today. That's my only responsibility, is quilting today. I have gotten myself in a position again where I have to have a quilt done in that amount of time. I started this yesterday. You can see some of those flying geese, and I have today and tomorrow, and I have to deliver this quilt. How this came about is, as many of you know, I had a horse, and that horse was a 36-year-old Arabian. He lived in my yard. He was in the advanced stages of melanoma cancer, and a week ago yesterday, he colicked, which for those of you who don't know horse stuff, they get a tummy ache, and it can be deadly for a horse. Well, between the colic and the advanced stages of melanoma, we decided with the vet's help, that's Top Gun Vet in our area, that it was best if we went ahead and said goodbye to him. So we did that, and that was really difficult, but we gave him a safe place to land over the last 6 years, and he was just spoiled rotten, and we loved him. His name was Casper. Like I said, he was a 36-year-old Arab. So that happened, and while the vet was here, Dr. T, she mentioned that they were having a fundraiser to help animals here in my county, which is Chester County, South Carolina. And she, knowing that I'm a quilter, she asked if perhaps I would be willing to donate a quilt for them to auction off. And this weekend. And I said, yes, of course. And of course, I'm also giving her my saddles, my buckets, my, all kinds of stuff that I had to take care of the horse. That's all going for the auction too. But I thought, I don't just want to give her a quilt. I want to give her a specific quilt that looks like something a country vet would have. So I found this panel. This is from Brooklyn Fabric Company. The panel is, let's see, it's designed by Laura Conidike for the Blank Quilting Corporation, and it's called Farm Country. So Brooklyn Fabric Company, the panel was $10. Shipping to me was $6.50. So this cost me $16.50. Great buy. Love Brooklyn Fabric Company. Go check them out. Okay, well, I also picked this particular quilt because I knew that I had this line of fabric, which is a Marcus. Hang on a minute, I had it a second ago. There it is right there. This is, okay, Marcus Fabrics Sally's Quilt. I've got the cheater fabric from the line of fabric right here. So you can see some of those fantastic fabrics in it. Now, we have this line of fabric in limited quantities for sale on our website. And you can, and again, there'll be a link to our website in the description below. I'll have Savannah include a picture of all the fabrics that we've got. And I'm gonna cut those fabrics up into fat quarters and jelly rolls as needed. And I also have a few of the fabrics that I have quantities of. So, having said all that, let's get busy getting this challenge met. I've got 2 days to get this all made into a quilt. Let's get it done. Okay, let's start with our flying geese. I've been wanting to do flying geese for quite a while, and I thought this will be the perfect project for it. We are going to be using today the make 4 at a time flying geese method. Who taught me this? You guessed it, Donna Jordan. The first time she did this method, I was like, what is she doing? I don't understand this. And still to this day, when I see it starting out, I'm like, okay, they made a heart. I don't get it. And then you put that last piece on and it's like, oh my goodness, who thought that up? That was brilliant. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do the 4 at a time flying geese method. And honestly, it took me longer to figure out what size to make them than it did to make them. Anyway, so I've got my 1 large piece of background fabric and I have 4 pieces of the print fabric. I have drawn a nice line that I can see, doesn't have to be faint because we're cutting on that line, on the back of my print fabric diagonally from corner to corner. Now, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put 1 piece here. Put my glasses on. It's time for glasses. It's also time for a couple of pins. Where'd my pins go? There they are. Get my pins. Okay. So I'm going to carefully put that in the corner, and then I am going to put a couple pins in it because this is a big piece of fabric and I don't want my material shifting, because I'm also going to put a piece on this other side, right? I'm going to line that up there, and I'm going to line up the 2 pieces right there so those that line meets in the middle. Okay. Put some pins in it like that. If you so desire, you might want to put a pin right here to keep those pieces in line. I want to keep them in line. Okay. Now we're going to sew down a 1/4 inch away from each side of that line. That's it. Easy, easy, easy. Took out that pin, don't want to run over it. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, let's turn it around and do the other side. Boop, boop. Okay, that's done. See? Now I'm going to go cut that up. Cut that right down that line. And then I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Oops, dropped that right in my pins. Funny looking, right? Okay, let's give it a press. I'm going to set those stitches. Now I'm going to be real careful turning it over, not to stretch it. This is a diagonal, right? Okay. Do this side. There we go. Just like that. Pressed towards the print. I guess you could press either way you wanted to. That just seemed like the easier way to do it. And now it's a heart. And at this point, I always went, how is that going to become a flying geese? Maybe it's obvious to you guys, but my brain just doesn't work that way. Okay, now here's the magic. Take another one of your print blocks and put it in that corner. Let's put a couple pins. There we go. And one more. And now we're going to sew down both sides of that line. This is so fun and so fast. Okay, flip it around and boop, boop. Okay, there we go. Take those pins out and it's sewn on both sides of the line. Another way you can do this is just take your scissors and cut down that line. When you have bigger pieces like this, it makes more sense to take the cutting board, but I wanted to show you both ways to do it. And looky there, voila, you have a flying geese. Let's go ahead and press this one too. And I guess it really does matter. You want to press it to the print fabric, and I'm going to show you why here in just 1 second. Because that way you get that nice flat seam right there. If you had tried to press it the other way, it wouldn't be that flat. Speaking of flat, since the next thing we have to do is to cut it, to trim it down to size just a little bit, I'm going to use some Best Press. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a good spray because I want it to be really stable. I don't want any bumps and lumps when I'm trying to cut this piece of fabric. Because, you know, when you're doing that, when you're cutting something down, oftentimes there'll be a little hump or bump where it's pieced, and it won't lay that flat underneath the ruler as you're cutting it. So I have just used some Best Press, and man, do I have a sharp, flat flying geese now. And now it's a little bit oversized, just a tiny bit. So I'm going to go cut it down. Okay. At first, I'm going to get this one done too. Okay, so I've got my flying geese unit set down on the table. I want to make sure that I'm trimming it down to 1/4 of an inch from this point right here. So I've lined up my flying geese real neatly. I've found a point on my ruler that is on one of these lines of the mat, so that I know I'm going to be cutting straight across. So I'm going to trim that. And then I want this to be 5.5 inches wide. So then I'm going to move my ruler up to that 1/2 inch mark right there on the flying geese, and I'll take the bottom part off. Okay. And I want this to be 10.5 finish wide. So at that mark, I need to go to the 5.25 inch mark. So that's going to be right about there. I'm also going to line it up with a line here and here. Okay, I'm going to trim that side off. And then I'm going to come this way and do that at 10.5. And again, keeping my lines straight there and there and there. Then I trim this one. And I get all my dog ears as I'm trimming that. Okay? And there. Now he's the perfect size, 5.5 by 10.5. All right, so I've got all my flying geese made. Now it's time to put them, and I've sewn them into sets of 7 for the sides. Now I'm going to go sew those on, and then it'll be time to make our sets for the bottom and the top. And I'm going to need 8 of those. Now, 8 doesn't quite fit all the way across. It's too few, but 9 is too many. So there's a trick to this, and I'm going to show you that next as well. Let's take a look at our progress. All the flying geese are done. I have attached the sides, and I've left as much of the black showing as possible because when I get done with the flying geese, I also want to encapsulate that with a little piece of black. So this was too few to cover the whole thing, but if I had added one more, it would be too many. So how do we fix that? Take a look down here. I just added a little piece of the background fabric, and I think it looks fabulous. Now, here's my little piece. So I've got to go back and add that right there. And then the sides or the tops and the bottoms will be done. But they're not ready to sew on just yet. We have some corners that we have to fill in, and I have to attach those corners to this strip before I can attach them to the quilt. So we want to find a block that will look good with that. Will look good with this. So I thought of all kinds of different blocks, and then I went, my daughter gave me a present a couple of years ago, and it's this card builder or quilt builder card deck. And I'll have her leave a link to that in the description below. I wanted the block to not have tiny little pieces, okay? Because these pieces, these flying geese, they're big. So then if I put a block in the corners and it's small pieces, I just don't think it's going to look that great. So I picked out 2 cards from the deck that I think will look good. This one, Broken Dishes, will, each one of the half square triangles will be about 5 inches. That's similar in size to those. This one is the Big Dipper. And again, each one of those quarter square triangles are going to be about 5 inches, okay? I am a sucker for a pinwheel, so it's going to be this one. All right, let me get those picked out. I don't know what colors I'm going to use. I'm just going to go pick out some of the colors from the fabric line, and we'll get those blocks made, and I'll show you how to do it. So let me talk to you about these little cards. This one's labeled the Big Dipper, and on the back, it has how you construct it. Let me get my glasses on. And it has the pieces labeled. It has how many you cut, how many of those cuts you need. In this particular one, you'll notice in this row, it's showing you that they're cutting it on the diagonal as well, so that you get 4 pieces that look like this, and then you put them together. So I have already cut the number of blocks that I need, and I have cut them all on the diagonal. So here are my backgrounds. Here are my printed. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to put 4 backgrounds down like this, and they're all going to be oriented the same way. And then I'm going to let's take this guy right here, get some of those. Better iron that flat, otherwise that's going to be a problem, huh? Now you know that I didn't iron the fabric before I cut it. Oh well. Okay, now I'm going to put right sides together, and be very careful with these. Now we've got bias edges that we're working with, so don't stretch it out of whack, okay? So now I'm going to put my 4 pieces like so, like this, right? Okay. And now I'm going to take them under the machine and sew them, okay? I'm going to even up, I'm going to square up that corner and the whole thing as best as possible. I'm going to make sure it's all matching. And then I'm going to start in this square, because when you start at, if I were to start at this end here, the little triangle end, sometimes that has a tendency to get caught up in your machine. So I do have a leader in there to start with, and I'm just going to start him going right in there like that. This would be a great place for you to use your stiletto. I bought this beautiful stiletto at a quilt show I went to, and you can see a video on that show that I went to. That was the Carolina Quilt Guild show. No, the Carolina Lily show in Charlotte. And I bought that from somebody there, and I made a video of going to that show, and it's really fun. And oh my gosh, the quilts at that show were just gorgeous. Okay, so I'm going to use my stiletto, and I'm going to hold on to this little triangle here at the end, because they do have a tendency to get away from you. So I'm just going to hold him until he's through the machine. Okay, now I'm going to get the next one squared up, get him started in the machine, and hold on to that end with my stiletto or my fingernail or a seam ripper or anything that you've got on hand that, you know, won't get hurt by the needle. I have had a friend on my industrial machine put the needle through her finger. Yeah, I had to take her to the emergency room, and they had to pull, I had to go over there and take the needle out of the machine and drive her to the emergency room with the needle stuck in her finger. Whoa! Those industrial machines have some power to them. I guess these do too. All right. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Take those apart with my handy dandy little thread cutter here. I ran out of bobbin a little while ago, and I just popped in a black bobbin because I knew it wouldn't matter for this demonstration, but that is why you see little black specks, because that's my bobbin thread showing through with my cream color thread on the top because I've got a black bobbin. Okay, so I am going to press my seams. Okay, and then I'm going to set the light color on the bottom, and I'm going to press these towards the dark. So if I put the print on the bottom and I push that over very gently, again, all of this is bias now, so you want to be really gentle with it, and press that like that. We're going to do this to all 4 of them. Now in on the card, it has just using 2 colors. No, it has using it is shown using 3 colors. Hang on a minute. It'll be easier to explain this if I show you some of the ones that I've already made. So here's some of the ones that I've already made. And it has you using these 3 colors like this, or these 3 colors, yeah, the background and 2 other colors. I think I'm going to make mine even scrappier than this. I think each one of these individual blocks, I'm going to do a different color. So that's why I haven't put those together yet. All right. But it takes 2 of these to make one of those. So at this point, you flip one of them around, and now you get this. Now, because I don't want to do a lot of manipulating, a lot of tugging and pulling on this block, I'm going to put a pin at the 1/4 inch mark right there. I'm going to stick it in like that. Make sure that it went through to the seam on the other side, and it did, and then I'll poke it back through that way, okay? Now I am starting on that edge where it's a triangle. So I'm going to start off my machine on the leader, take a few stitches, raise up my foot, and put that little triangle piece up underneath my presser foot so that that presser foot is helping hold it. And there. Now it didn't get sucked down into the machine. It didn't twist. It didn't make any kind of other movements. And I am going to get right up, make sure that my seams are flat. They are. I'm going to get right up to that pin before I take it out. Okay, now I'm going to take that pin out, and I'm going to use that pin as my stiletto now because it is in my hand. And I'm going to hold on to this other end with that little pin to keep those pieces together. And there we go. All right, let me do that one more time for you. Flip that over. Here we go. Okay. Well, come here, pin. Okay, so I'm going to nest those seams really good. Put that pin in there. Tuck him back that way. Match up that first corner. Lift up my presser foot. Tuck that little triangle up underneath of there and grab it with or put the presser foot down on it so it's got a good hold on it. And then that thing is not going to move on you. Get down to my pin. Take it out. Use it to secure this side. we go. Let's see how we did. My thread cutter again. And let's see here. That's pretty darn good. Let's see if that one's better. That one's just absolutely perfect. Okay, last thing I'm going to show you with this is when we're pressing over these seams, we want them to go in opposite. We want to make that cute little pinwheel on the back too. How do you do that? Okay, so you got your seams like this. I'm going to hold this one this way and this one this way. And I'm just going to give a little tug on those little seams right there. So now you've got that cute little pinwheel. This seam is going to go this way. This seam is going to go that way. Okay. So now I'm going to take it to my ironing surface, and I am just going to hit just that center part so that it stays down. And now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to gently press manipulate that side so it's flat, but I don't want to push and pull on this because there's so many bias seams. Okay, and there we go. Now, I will say one thing with these cards. They have given you the exact dimensions that you need to make this a 5-inch block finished. So if your 1/4 inch isn't perfect, if your cutting isn't perfect, I would suggest you making the beginning blocks, the initial block that they tell you to make and cut diagonally, make it a little bit bigger than they tell you to, and then cut it down to size. That way you won't be kicking yourself and going, oh, that's not 5.5 inches now. Now I've got to make a new one. Okay, so either be super careful with your cutting and your scant 1/4 inch and your pressing, or cut the block a little bit bigger to begin with. All right, let me get all these done. Then we'll get them put into 4s, and then we'll get them on the design wall and show you how that looks. Okay, last step on our Big Dipper quilt block. I've got them all pieced. I've cut off all the dog ears. Now it's time to sew them into a 4-patch, okay? So we're just gonna turn these two over like this. Move my board out of the way. Bring these up here, and we're going to nest these corner seams. Okay, they nest. I hope you can see that. Let me see here. Let me get closer up here. There we go. Those corner seams are going to nest. So I'm going to put my leader in and get that corner started. Okay, I got that corner started. Now I'm going to go down here to this other corner and hold on to him. Now I'm just going to leave that in the machine. Do the same thing to this one. Turn him a little bit better. There we go. Okay. Get that corner started and then come down here with this other one. Okay. Now, let me trim this off. And I'm going to go like this and like this. I'm going to match this seam right here. Okay. And then I'm going to nest the center seams. And the one that's on top, I'm going to point that way. And the seam that's on the bottom, I'm going to point towards me. That way, let's see, they're like this. And as the machine comes and hits this one, the foot of the machine comes and hits this one, it's going to make it connect with that seam, that turnover, really nice and tight. So that's the way I like to do it. Because if it's the other way, you might push them apart. This way, you're pushing them together. See that big piece of fuzz? I cleaned my machine earlier, and that I must have dislodged that one, and it just came out. Okay, let's see how we did on our seam there, or on our center. Very good. Here we go. All right, now I need to clip that little thread that I had holding the two apart, so that when I go to separate these, because again, we're going to have the little pinwheel happening in the center, and when you get this much, it's kind of a little bit more, you have to clip a couple of pieces to get it to do right. And that goes that way. Here we go. All right, I've got that little pinwheel started in the center. I'm going to bring it over here and hit the pinwheel to begin with, and then I'm going to carefully turn back the seams just enough so that they're staying down, so that when I turn this over and press from the front, it's going to behave. Again, the reason I'm taking so much time showing you pressing on this block is it can really, you can really get your block out of square if you don't really pay attention to your pressing. Okay. And the other thing we're going to do with this block, oops, got that one lifted up. Okay, so now that I've got a good little press on it, I'm going to turn it over, make sure by feeling that there are no seams that have flipped on me. I'm going to take that best press again, soak it down, and without distorting the block, in other words, I'm not going like this, and I'm doing this straight across the grain or with the grain. I am not going diagonally. And I'm just being ever so gentle with it so as not to distort it. And if I feel like it's a little out of line, I can give it just a little encouragement, shall we say? Okay. There we go. That's the last one I needed to do. Oh, I still got that one seam turned over. There we go. We're just going to let that sit for a second. Okay. Now I'm going to show you the back. And you can see all the little pinwheels. And the seams are nicely pressed down. And it's nice and flat. Let's go put this last block in the corner, and I'll show it to you. Well, I got the little corner blocks done. I think they're precious. I really love them. So here's what I have left to do. I've got to put this piece on to my flying geese. I'm going to attach my corner blocks to the top and the bottom rows, and then I will attach the top and the bottom of the rows to the quilt. The last thing I'll need to do before I put it on Eleanor and get it long-armed is to put another piece of black all the way around the perimeter. Okay? I did it. I met my challenge. I got the quilt done in time to get it over to my vet. I'm going to load it up this afternoon with all my saddles and my blankets and buckets and bridles and things that I don't need anymore. And I'm going to take it over to Top Gun Vet so she can auction it off this weekend for helping raise funds for the animals in Chester County. If you are anywhere in our area, that is Top Gun Vet, and I highly recommend her. They are wonderful there. Okay, so this quilt finished about 57-ish by 64. It was a fun quilt to make. I quilted it in horse heads, which I think is really fun. I'll get a close-up of that, and Savannah will drop it in. You know she will. This panel came from Brooklyn Fabric Company. We'll leave a link to them in the description below. And I have this line of fabric in limited quantities on my website, so go check that out too. The back of it, I quilted, or I used another fabric from the line. I don't think I used this one in any of these, but that's another one that I've got. And then I bound it with the cheater fabric. That way the binding looks really scrappy and fun. I love that. All right, well, y'all, thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw today, please like, share, and subscribe. Do all the things that make that algorithm sing. And until next time, stay quilting. Bye.